What's up guys, welcome back to Spare Change. Today we've got Atomic Blonde on 4K Blu-ray. I'm not going to talk about the plot, but give my thoughts on the video and audio quality. But first, let's unbox it. Now for some tech specs. The movie was shot in 2.8K. It has a 2K DI. Runtime is 155 minutes. It's rated R. Aspect ratio is 235:1. So if you're watching on a television, you'll get those black bars on the top and bottom of your screen. As for video quality, I found it to be a minimal upgrade over the regular Blu-ray. Overall image is a bit tighter, especially in the close-up shots of the actors' faces. Fine details like pores and the peach fuzz on Charlene's face was well rendered and intricate. You could even see how much caked on makeup was applied to the female characters' faces quite clearly. Black levels were a little more contrasty and added a bit more depth to the image, with shadow detail that's slightly more refined and defined. The color palette of the movie has a very bluish tint, which is used to emphasize the coldness of Berlin during this time period. So there isn't much color in the movie at all. But during the interior scenes in Lorraine's apartment, or the club scene in Chapter 11, when some colors do pop up, HDR really does kick in and makes the neon colors really pop. It totally changes the tone. There are some visual cues from the John Wick movies here with its visual style. So if you've seen those movies, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. There is some faint grain or noise throughout, but it never stood out unless I was looking for it. Sharpness overall was decent, but I didn't think it was as crisp as movies like The Last Night or Dead Men Tell No Tales. It just had a slightly softer edge compared to those. Audio in the regular and 4K Blu-rays are done in DTS-X, and I thought it sounded very good and dynamic. The soundstage was wide and spacious. The 80s musical soundtrack was detailed and added a bit of levity to this somewhat depressing feeling movie. Overhead effects were pretty much absent in the way of directional cues, but ambient effects and some of the musical score would find its way up top and really helped open up that soundstage. Chapter 15 was a standout and should be turned up. This scene was devoid of any music, but relied heavily on the sounds of punches, kicks, and gunshots. The sounds followed each of the actors as they moved from different speakers while they're fighting, and bullets and debris can be heard whizzing throughout the room. Bass response wasn't that deep, but it did hit hard during the action sequences. Ambient effects like rain or the sounds of the city were always present and audible, and dialogue was always clear and very intelligible. So for audio, I'd have to give it an 8. There wasn't really any discrete action going on up top, but the subtle use of environmental ambient sounds, a wide soundscape, and some catchy 80s music was the main thing I really liked about this movie. For video quality, I'm gonna go with a 7.9. This wasn't a crisp 4K transfer, but the HDR did look excellent. It may look a little sharper for you depending on your display size, but for me, it was a little softer than I was expecting. So is this movie worth a buy? I'd most likely only watch this thing once, but there are some scenes that are definitely worth a look. Now, if you're interested in purchasing this movie, I left a link in the description down below. Our social media links are down there as well. And if you're a fan of 4K movies and not a subscriber, go on and hit that subscribe button. And we'll see you guys again in the next video.